Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Good Life. On today's episode, we will be at our local Blount County Bee Association meeting where Bill Grimmett will go over how to inspect your beehive, the proper gear to wear, and how to tell if your hive has a problem. After that, him and Randy Bonds will show us how to light a smoker. Come with me as we go on another adventure and experience the Good Life.
I at one time had decided I wanted to get a little small notebook for each hive. Well, that didn't work out too well because it's hard to keep up with a pile of notebooks, and you get confused about that. That's not a good system. I've already can tell you that. Don't even try that. And some people use a sheet. There is a sheet here on the table. If you want to look at those, I may have enough for everybody to look at those. That may give you an idea of what you want to do. I don't use that, but it will give you an idea of what you might want to look for. What I do is put a date at the top, and then I go by each hive I look at, each colony I look at, I write something about that in there. And some of the things you want to look at is, well, can you tell if the queen is there? You always want to know if the queen is there, because if the queen disappears, you're in trouble in a hurry. It doesn't take long for you to get in trouble. So that's one of the things you always want to look at. You want to look at how, is she doing a good job? Is the queen doing what she's supposed to do? Is there a good pattern? We'll look at some of that in a moment as I go through. I may be jumping ahead. I was talking about record keeping. But the way I do it is just each page is a date, and when I fill that page up, or when I do whatever I'm going to do on that date, I move to a new page or a new date. And then I put this in a database. And that, I don't recommend doing that. I just like messing with databases, and I have access on my computer, and I put that in there. Now, I'm always behind on it. It takes time, but when I want to go find out how many, when I last replaced a queen somewhere, I can find that really quickly in a database. It really works well for that. The downside is it just takes long to transfer it from here into the database. So that's up to you, but that's just an idea. And at the end, if you want to pick up one of these sheets that has some recommendations on what to look at a hive inspection, well, please do that. That will be here. Here's what we want to look at tonight: the reasons for a hive inspection, and how do you prepare and approach the hive when you get ready for an inspection, and then what to look for on the brood frames. When you're opening it up, what are you looking at? What are you looking for? You want to see if you have a functioning queen. Determine if you have adequate stores. Stores would be nectar, honey. They make honey out of nectar, so in the spring you'll see both of those. And also bee bread. They make bee bread from pollen, and that is the protein that they feed to the young ones. So they need that. If they're raising young, they need the protein. They need the bee bread that's made from pollen. List of materials, and how to light a smoker. If we have time, I brought smoker and some pine straw, and we will try to go out in the parking lot and light a smoker if that's what you would like to do, if we have time. Well, you can look and learn a lot by looking at the exterior of the hive. And what about the activity at the front? You know, you can just ride by sometime and see if there's a lot of activity at the front. Now, if there's no activity, that might be a sign that you want to look inside. But just because there's a lot of activity does not mean within itself that that is good. Are they bringing in pollen? That is good. If they're bringing in pollen, that usually means there's a queen there. That usually means they have brood, and that usually means there's a queen. So that's something you want to look at. If you look at it for 2 or 3 minutes and they're not bringing in pollen, you might want to make sure, but look at that one. Go inside, look and see what's inside. Are they fighting? If they're fighting, that's not a good sign. Does it have a bad smell? Well, what's a bad smell? That's something you'll get used to with experience. I know the year that I had bees, and in the fall, when the goldenrod started blooming and they started putting up goldenrod nectar, making honey out of that, it has a peculiar smell to it. If you smell that, you would think, I never want to eat any goldenrod honey. But actually, the honey is not that bad. It's pretty good. It's stronger than some, but it smells really bad. And I've had different people say that it smelled like wet socks or whatever. I don't know what it smells like, but it stinks. So the first time I smelled that, what in the world? But now I know what that is. But now I like to smell it now because I know they're out there doing what they're supposed to be doing. Or the ants trailing into the hive. Ants can be a problem. Most of the time, a few ants going in is not a problem. But those little sugar ants, sometimes they will, if there's a lot of them get in there, sometimes they'll build a little nest or something in there. And there are things you can do to cut down on that. You can grease the leg, depending on what you have for a stand. I have some stands that are made out of PVC pipe. I don't necessarily recommend that. But you can grease those, and that will keep the ants from going up. If you have concrete blocks, like most of mine are now, it's more difficult to do that. I have heard people say they just finally had to move their hive. But I think that's unusual that you would have to do that. Scratch marks on the front of your hive. What would that be? A skunk, yeah. Skunks will get up and scratch on the front of the hive, and when the bees come out, they eat them. That's protein for the skunks. And one reason, now some people set their hive on the ground, just almost right on the ground. I don't like to do that. I like to get mine up. I don't like to bend over that far, for one thing. But one thing about setting up a little higher is the skunk has to raise up to scratch, but then he's exposing his underbelly to the bees sting. So that's one good thing about that. But, no matter what, you can you think of some other things from outside the hive, Randy, that you might observe right offhand? I know I'll put you on the spot.
If you stand there and watch them, you'll see them carrying out dead, which that's normal.
Yeah.
And if they're carrying out, if they're bringing in, like say, pollen and nectar, and robin, which like say fighting, they'll be bouncing off and they'll be landing, hitting against the front of it really hard.
Yeah.
There'll be fights going on at the entrance. So that's never fun. So.
No. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk about the bearding when the
what?
Bearding.
Bearding. Well, sometimes you see them bearding in the summertime. There's just it's the way to stay cool. You see that in the hot summer. That's not anything to worry about. The weather. You can't always look at hives. You may need to go in and look at them, but you have to think about the weather. You can only look at it when the weather is sunny and warm. If it's bad weather, you can't go in and look at them. Well, also when you're going in, you're tearing apart their home, and they may not like that. So why do you have to do that again? Well, that's what you just really can't know what's going on inside without going in and looking sometimes. And that doesn't mean you need to go in every day or every week, but you do need to go in fairly regularly. I think there's a tendency for newer beekeepers to go in often, and then as you get older, time slips away. So then you find out you should have been in last month and you weren't in last month. So kind of keep a schedule. You want to know if your queen is functioning. We talked about that just a moment ago. Loans are the loan stores. And again, this may depend on the time of year, the time of year you're talking about, but always pay attention to the stores. Got to get something to drink here. I'm not sure I want to set this on that wood, one of these things. Well, I could step right here. Thank you. Well, population. Is your population high or is it low? One of the good things about starting out with 2 hives instead of just one is you can kind of compare what is low population, what is high population. It's kind of relative, but it's not. There is a population below which the bees cannot survive. So you need to know that. And also it matters what time of the year it is as to whether your population is high or low. And are they getting ready to swarm? This is something, not quite yet, but next month, probably start seeing in the hives, if you have hives, probably start seeing them preparing to swarm. Swarming is something bees do. That is one of the ways they reproduce. They live to prepare for the winter, and then when they make it through the winter, to swarm. About half the bees go off with the queen, with the old queen, and they make a new queen, and that is one of the ways they reproduce. So that's what they want to do. If you're wanting to make honey, then you don't necessarily want them to swarm. Hal, I think, in March is going to talk to us some more about swarming, but that's a little bit about it now. And of course, pests. Varroa, small hive beetles, and wax moths are something we want to always be aware of. But I'll tell you up front, the best way to prepare against any of these things is to maintain a healthy hive. There are things we can do about these things, but it doesn't work if your bees are not healthy. If you don't have a healthy colony, nothing is going to save it. Well, winter. Would you want to inspect that? Would you go in and inspect that? Of course, we don't have to worry about that here. Now, up in Ohio or maybe up in New England, they might have this problem. We don't have that problem. But there are days, we've had some days recently where it was too cold to go in. So there's some days we just can't go in, and that's all there is to it. Even if you know there's a problem, or you suspect strongly there's a problem, you just can't go in there. And hopefully the food stores are good because you have tended to that in the fall. Made sure they had enough food in the fall before you get to the winter. January and February are 2 months that most bees starve to death. Right now is a time when a lot of bees are starving to death because it's been warm, they've been out flying around, they're using up energy to fly around, but there's not much out there. I showed you some red maple a moment ago, so that they might be able to get a little bit from that, but they're not getting enough to really say we have a nectar flow on. But it's just good to see that. But beware this time of the year, make sure you have. It's also a good time to use oxalic acid in the vapor form because you don't have to open the hive. Put it in, it fumigates, and the only problem is it only kills the phoretic mites, the mites that are riding around on the back of the bees. It does not kill the mites that are under cappings. Mites breed under the cappings in the where the brood is. It won't kill those. So it's usually, if you're going to use oxalic acid, you need to give at least 3 treatments, 4, 5, or 6 days apart, and that way you'll knock them down pretty good. In the spring, that's really a busy time, and it's a time you want to keep up with how your population is doing. It should be starting to build up. It's fun to watch them build up. If they build up too quickly, they may swarm. You don't want them to build up so quickly that they will swarm, but you want them to build up, but not too quickly. So you have to sort of keep an eye on it. Give the queen room to lay eggs. One of the things that encourage swarming is when she runs out of room, place to lay eggs. She likes to lay her eggs kind of sort of in the middle. So provide places for her to lay eggs in the middle. and kind of keep that area open for her. How's her breed pattern? Does she have a really good solid breed pattern, or is it spotty? You want to keep that. It may be a time to split. One of the reasons, why do we split? Why would we split a colony? We hear that term.
Give room until we produce more hives.
If you want to increase your number of hives and split them, that would be the time to do it. Another thing is to keep them from swarming. If you want to split before they swarm, a little bit early, so that they have time to build up and time to make honey. If they split, they usually swarm about the time the major nectar flow starts. Just about the time you want them making you some honey, that's when they say, well, we've got plenty of energy, we've got plenty of stores, let's swarm. This is the time to swarm. That is not the time you want them to swarm. So in order to avoid that, go back a little bit earlier and split them. That's like an artificial swarm, and then give them time to build up, but not so much that they will swarm, and that way you can make more honey. Now, that's a good theory. It doesn't always work, but that's one of the things that you can do to keep them from swarming, or try to keep them from swarming. Again, it's something they want to do, so it's not always easy to stop them. Make sure they have food stores, and there again, it depends on the time of the year, but be knowledgeable in the food stores. It might be a good time in the spring to knock down the mites before you put the honey supers on. Some of the miticides are temperature sensitive, so you have to be aware of that. In the spring is when you want to make sure they have a water source. If you get them trained to go into a particular water source, it may be that they won't go visit your neighbor's swimming pool later on in the summer when they're out there. And once they get started in the swimming pool, it's hard to stop them. But it's generally true that once they get started on a particular spot, that they will kind of stick to that. So it's a good time in the spring to make sure they have water. In the summer, after you take the honey supers off, you want to make sure to check their stores again after the nectar flow. You may want to leave some honey on there for them. You may want to leave a super on there for them. Of course, they're going to get another shot in making in the fall, hopefully, but you don't really know that. So don't trim them down too closely. Keep them in mind. Again, water source. I know last year I had, it got really dry. You remember how dry it was? It was dry at our house. And I had around my faucet, where I was doing some washing or something, using the hose, there was often a little puddle of water around there. Bees started coming to that. And it would dry up, and they would come back looking for it. So I finally just cracked the faucet just a little bit so water would just drip there all the time, so they would have a little water there all the time. They visited that spot all summer and picked up water there.
This area has been so bad, inland lake right down the road is down 19 feet.
Oh, really?
It's been that dry in the area, and our garden, you know, we had a hard time with the garden this year too.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any inches of rain. We got yesterday, my wife had taken the rain gauge in when it was cold and did put it back out. But there is a lot of water. I know now there is. And hopefully there'll be water later on. But the streams are flowing pretty good right now.
I mean, I got a nice creek up near the hive, probably 20, 30 foot. I've got 2 bird baths with rocks, and I keep them. I usually fill one up every day, and they empty one of the other. Just have a faucet, a hose I just turn it on, fill it up.
Okay, now you say you have rocks in it?
Yeah, rocks.
Explain why you have rocks.
So they can land on it and you'll see them all over. And it gets low, they'll be up under the edge of the rock. Or just hanging on the rock, getting the water. Yeah, I keep some big rocks in there instead of little bitty ones. And they've got plenty of room along the edge and on the rocks. But they'll take it off the wet rock too, not just the water.
Yeah, if you just put a tub of water out there, a lot of them are drowned. They're not strong swimmers. But if you have something that they can stand on while they get the water, like rocks and the bird bath, that's perfect. Monitor the mites. I may next week talk a little bit about monitoring, how to monitor for the mites, but it's a good idea to monitor them, know what your mite situation is. Some people just treat, well, I know I have mites, I'm going to treat. Well, you can do that. But you don't really know if your treatment is working if you don't monitor, and you don't know if you really need to treat if you don't monitor. So it's really easy for me to say that. Don't ask me if I do it, because... and again, some of the mites have temperature restrictions. I know Cornet Pro, which I put some on last week, or when it was, maybe a week, when it was so warm. Yeah. I put some on then, and I knew it was going to cool off, but I said at least I'll put some on and...
Tray you put on top.
Yeah, that's time off.
Yeah, the time off is what you do.
Yeah. Now, Apivara, I don't think has any temperature restriction. Apivara is a good product. The only thing, it's a hard chemical. Some people don't want to use it. It works well. The only thing is continued use tends to, for the bites to build up a resistance. So it's something you don't want to use over and over again. Queens, also pay attention to queens. No matter what time of the year, you always want to know about your queen. So watch for the queen. Honeybees, the workers live about 6 weeks in the summer, and that's not very long. So that's one of the reasons the queen has to continue to be laying eggs. If she's not continued to be laying eggs, and if she quits laying eggs, the attrition is going to knock your population down pretty quickly. But in the fall, you're making bees that will go through the winter. In the winter, the bees that come out in September, November, they're called winter bees or fat bees, they will last all winter. So you want those to be healthy. So make sure your bees are healthy in the fall. Again, in the fall, check for mites, stores, queen. Make sure you have a queen going into fall. Usually in the fall, early fall, you probably can still get queens. Right now, if you need a queen, you could not get one. I don't know. There might be some place you could get one, but you probably could not get one. They're difficult to get in the winter because nobody's raising them at that time of the year. You might order one from Hawaii, I don't know, where they raise them all here. Check your population in the fall. You want to make sure you have enough. Knock back if you need to, combine or leave alone. These are things that you want to look at. And we'll talk about those just a little bit more in just a second. Now, here is one. Open it up. Let's see. If you open this up in the fall, what do you think? Does that look like a lot of bees, or look like maybe not quite as many as you'd like to have? Well, you can see there's a couple of frames missing there, and there's one frame missing here, and it's not, there's quite a few, but the fall is, you don't want to give them too much space. So it might be that you might want to knock these back into one box. If they will go in one box, that may be too many to go in one box. It could be that if you had another hive that was a little bit slacking, you might take a frame or two of these and put in there. But you don't necessarily want to give them too much space in the winter, because if it's too much space for them to take care of, the small hive beetles may move in and start setting up shop there. What about this box? Yeah, that definitely is pretty small there. And you would want to do something with that. You might combine it. It's too small to knock back. And you might be able to put that in a loop box and baby it all winter. I don't know. Depending on how much store, depending on how the queen's doing, sometimes you can do that. But this might be one you want to combine with another hive. And it's better to do this in the fall. Combine them in the fall and then split them in the spring. what about the spring? What if you saw this in the spring? What about then? What would you do then? Leaving would be an option. You're wanting them to grow, they have room to grow, and so that would be an option. It might still be that they might handle one box, they might not need 2 boxes, but still, that's a judgment call.
You need to know about that queen too when you're down like that.
I'm sorry?
You need to know about the queen.
Yes, you need to know about that queen when you're down like that right there, because if she's not in a good way, then you're gonna deteriorate rapidly.
That's right. You always want to know about your queen, and you know it's hard to just look at bees on the top and say, well, I'll make a decision based on that. But take that into consideration, and you do want to know about your queen. That's good. And here is something that if you're looking, if you see that, but you see that the queen is laying eggs, you see a good bit of brood in there, well, that might affect your decision there as well. But it looks like something is going on there, and based on that. Eggs, that's what you want to see, eggs. I don't know if I have this later on, but while I'm looking at this, one of the things about looking for your queen is that to know that you have a queen, you don't always have to find the queen. But you do want to find eggs. And if you find eggs, you can be reasonably sure that the queen, you have a queen. She was there at least 3 days ago. So you can be reasonably sure you have a queen. If you see the queen and don't see eggs, well, you don't really know if she's doing right or not. However, having said that, sometimes you need to find the queen. And the queen is not always easy to find. And the more practice you get at finding the queen, the better off you are. So while you're new beekeepers, and while you're interested in going in and finding the queen, I recommend doing that. It's good practice. It's good practice just to find it. Plus, she's so pretty. I mean, you know, you look, you find her, and you say, oh man, there's the queen. So it's really satisfying to find her too. Preparing for inspection. You want it to be, I like for it to be sunny and 55 degrees. Now there may be times you can fudge on that a little bit, but if it's sunny, that really makes a lot of difference. If it's down in the 40s and it's cloudy and overcast, it's not a good day to try to open your hive up and look inside. Some tools you might want to have is a hive tool. And I have some hive tools here. Well, smoke box, you think about your smoker. Think about how you're going to haul your smoker around. Now, my smoker, if I set it down on the back of my pickup truck, when it's hot, it melts the liner. So you need something to, what I started doing, now a metal box would be good to set it in, but what I started doing is I get a newt box, and it's got a little hook on the end. I hook it on the end of that newt box and just set it either there or in the bucket of my tractor, either one. And that keeps it from tipping over and hauls it around. That works pretty good. PPE, personal protection equipment. That is something. A small flashlight. When you're looking for eggs, they're hard to see. So I like to use this little flashlight. This is a pretty good little flashlight. And it's pretty bright, and it helps me to see eggs. This reading glasses. This one. You know, I forgot I had this one. This would be pretty neat for something there. Hive parts. Invariably, you're going to need a box or something. I like to carry a spare box when I'm going out there because sometimes you'll need to take the frames out, put them in a box, or do something. But a spare box is a good thing to have when you're going out to the yard. And a fire extinguisher. You know, think safety. I have seen, I had a picture somewhere of what happened when somebody knocked over their smoker and set the pine straw on fire. It burned off a pretty good area. A fire extinguisher is not a bad idea. You know, I'm giving advice which I don't take. I don't have a fire extinguisher. I keep saying, you know, I'm going to get a fire extinguisher. I haven't done it yet, but it's a good idea to have one. When I burn the lower 40 off, I'll get a fire extinguisher.
These newer fire extinguishers, these little bitty ones, we have them all over our farm. And they're really effective. I had a grill fire one time that was a grease fire.
Yeah.
And it's amazing at how big a fire you can put out with a little bitty spray paint size fire extinguisher. They're real effective.
Okay, well, I'm not looking at that. Who's selling? Who's selling?
You can get them at Lowe's and places like that. They're real cheap.
Okay.
Usually you can buy like a 3-pack or something.
Okay, well, there you, no excuse for not having a fire extinguisher.
Put one in your car.
Yeah.
You got one?
Oh, yeah. Two.
Here's some other things you might want to share. You know, there's some basic tools that you need, but here's some other things you might want to share. How about water? Now, you saw just a minute ago that I had sticks on my hands and I had to use some sanitizer to get it off. That's the reason I carry a gallon jug of water in my truck when I go out there, because I'm always getting something on there and I need to wash it off. It's just good to have a little water with you. A hammer is a good thing to have. It comes in more handy than you might think. That's a cheap hammer. Toothpicks. Do you use toothpicks?
I use those bamboo skewers.
Oh, do you?
I hung apigar off
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. The apibar comes in strips, and they have a little hole in the end. And the strips are to be hung down between frames. They have a little thing that you can bend out, and it hangs on there, but I don't like the way they work. It works so neat to be able to put a toothpick or a skewer through there and just hang it down in there. So, of course, it'll be propolis in when you go to take it out. That's all right, you can get it out.
You can also use a bamboo skewer to prop the back of the hive up or something, just to leave a little air in the summertime.
Oh,
It's just not big enough for the bees to get out, you put it on the top edge, set the lid back down, and lets air.
a little ventilation.
Yeah, a little ventilation.
Okay. All right.
In August, it was really, July, August.
Yeah. Did you think of any reason why I need rubber bands? I'll show you in a minute.
I know.
I know.
I had frames to break, and I used rubber bands to hold them together.
Okay, good.
I actually glued them and put them back in the hive with rubber bands.
Oh,
You probably use yours for the comb, don't you?
I'm sorry?
The comb, attach the comb. Attach the comb.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think I have a picture. Hair roller cages. Hair roller cage. I didn't bring one. They're little cages that you can put they look like a hair roller, but you can put the queen in. So it may be times when you want to get the queen and get her out of action. Just put her in a little hair roller cage, depending on whatever you're doing there. Especially if you're maybe doing a mite count where you're going to be shaking bees off and killing about 300 of them. You don't want to kill the queen. There may be times you want to get the queen out of action, so you have that little hair roller cage, you just pick her up, put her in that thing, and stick it in your pocket. So she's out of commission for a little while. Queen marker. This is not this year's marker, but there is you can mark your queen different colors for each year. There's 5 different colors, and then when you see her, it makes her easier to find. But then, if she's color coded, you'll know when she was put in there. Plus, if you come up with a queen in there that's not marked, you know she's been replaced. Yes, sir.
Does that have to be a non-toxic type pen?
It does.
Okay, because I was curious if you used a you know, a regular paint tin that's got solvents in it.
Well, this is, you can get these anywhere, but these are I think I probably ordered this maybe from Man Lake or Rossman or something.
Okay, it's a low Vox, probably like water based, isn't it?
Well,
What about fingernail polish?
No.
I don't know about that.
Unless you want to be high as
You can order a pack of all 5 colors, like off Amazon, Man Lake.
What kind, sir?
Or you can order a pack of all 5 colors.
Okay.
Off through Amazon or Man Lake or them.
Maybe
Then you
walk
just
it out
got
there
them,
just high.
they'll
It's
last,
all
you know,
years,
and I use, that's how I keep my records. I write on top of my Hive, days,
Okay.
screen right, you know, I saw brood, you know, it's got food.
All right, Randy brings up a point about records, and I meant to touch on that while I was talking about it, but I forgot to. There's different ways you can kind of keep some records, and one of them is, I have some bricks, and I paint red on one side, yellow on one side, and green on one side. So if I find the queen, I put the green side out. If I'm looking in there and I don't see the queen, that means danger. So I put the red side out, so that supposedly will remind me that I need to go back and tend to that hive quickly. If it's yellow, that might mean I didn't see the queen, but I need to go back and look for her again. But, and I've seen some people, they will stand the brick up. That means one thing, if you lay it down, that means something else. But you can do some little record keeping that way as well. But I carry a marker with me and some masking tape, and sometimes I'll make a note on the masking tape and put on, there may be like a date that I put a queen in, or maybe a date that I give him some oxalic acid or something.
Do you date your frames?
No, but I don't date my frames, but it's a good idea.
I've seen some people do it, that's why I was
So it's a good idea to date them, yeah. If they just they're looking so bad, they need to come out, well, probably take them out. Masking tape, I mentioned that, you can use masking tape. The thing about masking tape is it doesn't take the paint off when you pull it off. Put some paper for record keeping. Avoid strong scents. Strong scents. Perfumes. Perfumes are in everything just about we buy. I've looked at I pulled some garbage bags out the other day, had at the bar, and they had perfume on them. I thought, what in the world?
Is a normal amount of like deodorant or another thing I think of cigarette smoke, things like that?
I don't know about cigarette smoke. I
don't
know,
know.
but I would think probably not, but I don't really know. But I know they are very sensitive to scents, and so I avoid trying to. You know, years ago I was going up to back in the 70s. Do you ever remember when you used to have a CB radio and talk on the radio and have a sensible conversation with somebody? Maybe you don't remember those times. I remember them, but it's been a long time ago. But I was going up 85 or 95, and a truck passed me going uphill, and he was going pretty fast. And it was the middle of the night, looking for something to stay awake, and I just said, "Man, you must not have much of a load on the way you passed me." He said, "No," said, "I've got half a load of perfume on." So I'm going up to, I think somewhere in New Jersey, to Dow Soap. I'm carrying a half a load of perfume. He said, "The reason I only have a half a load is because the insurance will only insure $1 million." And this was back in the 80s, I think, so the early 80s. And so perfume is big business. It's expensive. It's in everything. So you may think that we don't have it, but you have to make a special effort to get anything without perfume in it. So just keep that in mind. The bees don't like perfume. So.
I have a question about
Yes.
that. I was reading in one of my beekeeping books that they like essential oil scents if they're natural.
Some essential oils are good. And the one that I can think of, I know that they like, is the lemongrass oil. As a matter of fact, when I put out a swarm trout out in the woods, I put a little lemongrass oil in it, and that does help attract them. And there may be other essential oils that they like, but I don't know. I don't know about what they would be. That might take some experimenting, or somebody who has done some experimenting. dark clothing, they don't like dark clothing. Supposedly they associate with dark colors with the animals that might want to do them harm, like a bear or something like that. Now, I know my wife had dark hair, and they seem to get after her more than they do me. When she's been out in the garden working and had a bee bugging her, so I don't know what it was, but maybe it was a black dog. But she loved to aggravate them and get them after her, and then she starts running, and to her it's a game until she gets stung, and then seriously. But if you notice, we will notice in a moment, the beekeepers' clothes, suits are all white; they're not black. And even now, all the beekeeping veils that I know of are black mesh. But I have been told that people who keep African bees, which are very defensive, they use white mesh instead of black mesh. I don't know if that's true or not, but they are definitely against the black. And biosecurity, it's just a really good idea to clean your tools when you go to one hive before you go to another one. You can tell I do that, can't you? Either dip it in alcohol or flame it off with a torch or something like that. And that will help keep from spreading disease from one to another. All right, which is best? A full suit? Now, if Amy were here, Amy works at Foxhound, she might recognize that guy there. Do any of you do business? Do any of you do business at Foxhound?
I met him.
Okay. Do you recognize him? Yeah. But I don't know. But
That was
can you?
Photoshop.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I said the girl looks photoshopped, like they photoshopped her face in there. That's what I was thinking.
Do you notice anything about his full suit that might not be armor proof?
His hands?
Do what?
No gloves.
Well, he doesn't have gloves on, but he can put gloves on. But what, anything else?
Ankles, yeah.
She's in
You want to
socks.
make sure that's tight.
She's in
If
socks.
the bees get in there, the bees travel up, they don't travel down. And it really messes up your concentration when you got a bee crawling up your knee. That you don't want that to happen. They might not sting you, but if they get in a tight spot, they might. So it's just best. So if you're going to do that, I think if I were going to that much trouble, I'd wear on boots. Boots that slip over here, because they won't go down the boots, they will be coming up. She doesn't have on boots at all. A jacket is more my speed. This is what I like. But again, if you're wearing a jacket, I like to put a belt on right there to kind of tighten up the space there. And a veil works really well too. Sometimes I'll just put a veil on. But yes, sir.
Bill, you might mention
I
some of
would bet
the
on
bees
the
or
shirt.
attacks will attack you where you put your carbon dioxide. That's the point that they're going to try to get you first, which means it's going to be your face and veil.
Well,
That's the draw when you're out there. Carbon dioxide.
These, we talked about their sensors the other day, and one of the things their sensors pick up, the antenna, or chemical sensors, is carbon dioxide. And you're breathing out carbon dioxide. So one of the things they do pick up is your breath. And that may be one of the first places they go to. So that's one of the reasons you have a veil. But where do they go to at first or last or whatever? I don't want them stinging me on the face or around my eyes or anything else. I don't feel like a hero if I go to somewhere and say, what happened to your eye? And I say, I got stung by a bee right there in my eye. And they're going to laugh, but what they're thinking is, you idiot, why didn't you have a veil on? So I don't want that to happen. Is that what,
The point I'm trying to make on this, Bill, is that you don't need a full ornament. You do need probably a jacket and at least a veil. Now, if they're very aggressive, which means they're really mad at you, yeah, you need the whole suit.
I always wear a whole suit, always.
Well, everybody.
Well, everybody has different comfort levels.
Yeah,
I
I
work my bees a
I'm
lot
not
of times
gonna
with no protection.
Try to
And
intimidate
I do
anybody.
it, hey, I do it 8 or 10 times in a row, and then you're gonna go down there one day and something's different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then I'd be 25 feet from the hive and it'd sting me right between the eyes. And I don't know what makes the difference.
Well, yeah, you're right, you don't know. One of the things is that we like to keep Italian bees because they are gentle, they make good honey, and they have some good characteristics. But bees are like dogs. Anybody have dogs?
Much.
Do every one of them act exactly the same? Some of them are a little different than others. Some of your bees are going to be a little different. It could be that the skunks have been out there messing with them the night before, and so it doesn't take much to get them riled up. You just don't ever know what it might be that gets them riled up. But you're right. You think you know what you're going to do based on the last 500 times I've looked at it, but this time it's going to be different. And so you just don't ever know for sure.
You sure don't want to get stung in the eye, though.
You don't want to get stung in the eye. That is true. Yeah, getting stung is one thing, and I get stung, and I won't say I enjoy it, but I go wrong with it. But I don't want to get stung in the face or in the eye. Don't wear black. Hand protection. Okay, here's another individual thing. You can get leather gloves, or you can get goatskin gloves, and goatskins are just a little more fit better and work better than cowhide.
They'll sting through a cowhide.
I'm sorry?
They'll sting through a cowhide glove.
Well, I guess it depends on how thick it is. Here's my goatskin gloves. They get, and you have to wash them off every now and then. I don't use them anymore. But you can see what happens when you use gloves for a while. They get a little dirty. These fit pretty well, but they are still more cumbersome than these natural gloves. If I'm going to wear gloves, I'll usually wear natural gloves, nitrous gloves. These are 9 mil gloves. You can get 7 mil or 9 mil, and they work pretty well. Very seldom will you get stung through these. They can, if they want to, but very seldom will you get stung through these. And it's just much easier to work with these on than it is the other one. But there again, that is an individual preference. I am not going to tell anybody what to do and them risk getting stung. That is up to you. Now here's some natural gloves that I have. Some of these orange ones, I like them real well. See, these black ones I got from Harbor Freight, they work good. I like the orange ones a little better. It seems like they're a little stretchier. They go on a little easier, maybe my imagination.
I
But
can use them more than once.
do what? Oh, yeah.
I say, yeah.
You can use them more than once. If you use them for a couple of hours, they'll get sweaty, but when you take them off, turn them inside out, let them dry out, and then turn them back when you get ready to use them. Now, if your goal in life is never to get stung, which is what my son-in-law, my grandson told me one time, then this is what you need.
That's for the murder hornet.
But it is black, isn't it? So,
Did you make it note if you're allergic to bees, do not get into this?
Yeah. I told them that the first night.
Okay, I wasn't here.
all right, there's a hive tube. That is, when you get used to using that, you can do just about anything you want to with that. That's really a handy thing to have. That's what I would recommend getting. Now, there are other things you can get. This hive tool here has a J hook on the end. And that, what you do with that is sometimes your frames will be stuck. Sometimes your frames will be stuck in there, and well, I've got this one here. This is a fancy looking thing, isn't it? Sometimes prizing them apart might not be enough. You can use that hook put under here and prise that thing up. And it works pretty good. That's a good heavy duty one. First time I saw one of these, I think it was one of the state apiary inspectors was at the house, and he had one of these. I said, man, that thing is neat. I've got to have one of those. And it's in my toolbox, but I very seldom use it. So if you got to have one, that's good. But about the only thing I ever use it for is this hook. This is supposed to be kind of like a little hammer. I keep a hammer in my box. This is for cleaning, scraping off your queen excluder, and this is just for additional scraping. And I don't know what that's for, but it's neat looking, and it's impressive looking.
I gotta have that gadget.
So sometimes you have to use both ends.
A brush. Everything I see says the equipment you need is a brush. I have a brush. I very seldom use it. Bees don't like to be brushed. If you do brush them, there's an art to it. You don't want to just brush. It kind of comes, brush them along a little bit. But they don't like to be brushed. Occasionally you may need a CLD for it, but most of the time I just use smoke. You do need smoke. If you don't need it for anything else, when you start closing the hive back up, see all these bees around the edge there? You kind of smoke them back a little bit so you won't squash them any of them. I hate to squash them little girls, but so smoke them back a little bit. And when your smoker's doing like that, that's the way it should. That's the way it should look. You don't take a picture now?
Okay. Okay.
The inspection, okay. Light your smoker before you put the veil on. You know, there's always something that happens when you're lighting smoke. It's best to have control and not have that veil in your way. Light that before you put the smoke on it. Think safety. I'm going to get me a fire extinguisher next time I go into Lowe's. And cool smoke. You want cool smoke. You don't want to burn them. You don't want smoke to be so hot that you burn them. You just want a cool smoke and white and dense. Approach the hive from the back or the side. It's best not to go in from the front when you're in their flat pattern. They may hit you. They may run into you. It's not necessarily they're going to sting you if they do, but it's not where you want to be. Go around from the back or the side. And as you're approaching, though, look around to the front and see what kind of activity is going on. We talked about before, we want to see if they're bringing in pollen, what's going on. Are the workers carrying in pollen on their legs? Slow traffic may mean that you need to look inside. Are the dead bees on the ground in front? You know, a few bees, okay. But when you see a big pile of bees, that may indicate some kind of problem. And, you know, this is when you have to do a little CSI. What caused it? Well, it's hard to know just by looking at the bees. It could be pesticides. It could be something else going on. So the best thing to do is look around a little bit and then call your mentor and have them come over and help you figure that out. Or call somebody. Yeah. All right, this hive here, that is normal activity. See them flying around there, and some of them look like maybe they're orienting to the hive. They're getting ready to start going, or maybe it's just traffic patterns bringing in nectar and pollen. And that is what you'd like to see there. And bringing in pollen. I like to see them bringing in pollen. I like to see that pollen on their legs. That really gives me a good feeling. Now, what about this one? You see something different about it?
That's not robin, is it?
That's robin. Why do you say that?
Because they have to climb up the hive to jump off because they got a heavy load before they take off.
All right, look. Every crack. They're trying to get into cracks. Why are they trying to get into cracks? You've got a scout bee from another hive flying by. He smells honey. They got really sensitive. He smells honey. And another thing, while I'm on this, when you're feeding your bees, when you're giving them sugar water, be careful not spilling it on the ground, because another bee may come along and smell that, and that might get them to want to come back robbing. But any place that scent can get through here, the crack, the bees are trying to get in there. Now, to stop that, one way to stop that, I don't have a picture of that here, is to put a robber screen on, and that blocks this front entrance here, and with a screen that comes up like this, so that the bees that live there have to go up and out. The bees that are trying to get in are trying to get in where the smell is, so they're not going to know to take that traffic pattern down through there. But you can see that they're trying to get in, and they're flying around. And if you look down on the front porch, you might see some toteling going on. Can you? There's some fighting going on, and when you have a robbing frenzy, you're going to have a lot of dead bees in the bottom. Some bees are going to die. Well, we looked at this the other day. I'll just look at it again. Here I've got this is the outer telescoping cover because it comes out over the outside. This is the inner cover. That is the super. That is the queen excluder. That is the hive body or brood box. That is the bottom board, and that is the reducer, entrance reducer right there that you can turn anyway. Any questions about that? Yes.
Do you tend to use a solid bottom board?
I have some of both. As you're going to ask me which I like best. I know that I've taken a lot of courses from Auburn and from the University of Florida. Both of them recommend screen bottom board. University of Florida says, according to their records, that it will help your mite count 12 to 14%, which is not a lot, but it's some. It helps your mite count because the mites fall down through the screen and then they can't get back in. If they fall down on the bottom board, solid bottom board, they'll crawl back up. So that makes sense. However, when I questioned them personally, they said if you're going to use oxalic acid to a degree that it really works, and which is about twice as what they recommend really. If you're going to use oxalic acid, it's better to have a solid bottom board. And so I use oxalic acid on the ones that I have solid bottom boards on, and I don't use it on the screen bottom board. And I haven't been scientific enough to know which ones I'm having better luck with on the mites. So, so this conversation is not going to sound anything like what you might hear if you were to go up to David Kelton, is it? He will say, solid bottom board, that's all there is. You're crazy to use anything else, or I'm paraphrasing. But there's some people who say solid bottom board's the way to go, and other people say screen bottom board's the way to go. I haven't, from my own experience, been able to determine that one is a little bit better than the other. But, so they're the options. Does that make sense? Bee space. We talked about bee space. Lonnie talked about bee space at length last week, at a quarter, a half, 3/8 of an inch, 6 millimeters and 9 millimeters. Does that mean anything to anybody? 6 millimeters and 9 millimeters. How big is 6 millimeters? You know, anybody know? I remember back in the 60s, we were going to change over to the metric system. I had to go by wrenches. I could tell a 9/16 from a 5/8 wrench. Still can most of the time. But 10 millimeter or 12 millimeter, that doesn't mean a thing to me. And when I'm reading one of these scientific magazines talking about the temperature and it says 32 degrees Celsius, I said, what is that? I don't know what that is. But anyway, so I'm ranting. But 1/4 inch to 3/8 of an inch. And that's about what it is. That's the bee space. So two bees can pass back to back. And this is what happens when you violate. Now, Lonnie showed us something the other night too. Somebody left the frame out, but they, instead of fastening it to the lid, they fasten it to the frame beside it. So it's really neat in there. How are you going to get it out? How can you get that out? It's going to be difficult to get that out without tearing it up. This wax right here is really fragile. When you start trying to move it, it is falling apart. And so it's really fragile. Another thing too, right here, is that is a pollen pad, pollen substitute, pollen pad. That people use that to try to give the bees an extra protein. It's debatable whether it really does anything or not. It's okay to use it. However, I would never put a solid, full pollen patty in there. If you're going to use it, cut off 3/4 inch or 1 inch strips and lay it in there until they use that up. If you put a big piece like that in there, the small hive beetles will go up in there and nest up under it and lay eggs in there, and then it will add to your small hive beetle problem. So that's just too much pollen patty to put in there. All right, pop the lid. Why do I say pop the lid? If you take that lid off, it's going to have, if it's been out there a week or two, it's going to have propolis on it, and it will pop when you pop it up. Pop the lid, smoke it lightly. That's the telescoping lid. Pry open the inner cover. You will have to pry it open, but you can do that. Look, he's got one of those fancy tools right there. Prying it open. And pry that open, lift out a frame, stay calm, always want to move calmly. Don't get excited. Even if the bees come out, don't start swatting. If the bees come out and you determine that they're trying to tell you to leave, then that's what you should do. Leave. But don't be swatting. Just walk away until they cool down. Look for the brood stores, sign of the queen, look at the laying patterns, sign of diseases, and okay, you recognize this guy. All right. Now, this box here is kind of back in the shade. When I put that there, I thought that's east back there. And you can tell that's spring because it looks like maybe some red maples trying to get out there. But the sun comes up over here. I thought they're going to get morning sun and then afternoon shade, but really that's more shade than it is sun. So I have trouble with small hive beetles right there, this one. But that's spring. There's not a lot of bees there, but oh, notice there. See that pond? You got water right there. So that's close to the water. And anything else? Okay. And what about this one? That's the way you like them to look there. When you open them up and they look that way, you say, aha, that's good.
Time to split that one.
Right?
Time to split that one a little.
Well, if it's a spring,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. So if this is spring and I open it up like maybe next month and I saw that, I said, well, time to split. Because if you don't, they're going to be swarming. That's true. Or give them a lot of room. You might be able to give them enough room, but they're probably going to swarm.
Checkerboard or something.
Yeah. And another thing, just looking on top, look down between the frames as well. You see the bees that are down there. And also, you can sometimes see that the comb is drawn out, how much comb they've got, just by looking down through the middle. This one here doesn't look too good, does it? There are some bees in there. And it's drawn comb. It looks like there's honey in that comb. So I don't really remember what's going on. I don't know what's going on with this one. But this one is not looking too great. So you might want to check into it a little bit further and see why there's no more bees there. You might want to add some frame from another one. You certainly don't need to split it, do we? We don't need to split that one. All right. Now, I don't know what I'm looking at there. I'm pointing at something. It might be the queen, I don't know. But look here. This is a queen cup on the bottom of the frame. And you see there's something in there. That is the larva in there. So this is going to be, they're planning to swarm cells. So this is going to swarm. They're planning to swarm. That's what this is. So if I don't take some immediate action, they're going to swarm. And it may not stop them anyway. But that's what that is. Now they will continue building that queen cup down to make the queen cell until it gets to be, looks like a peanut.
What do you do about that?
Well, it just depends on how much energy you have. When they get to this point, sometimes you can take those things out and give them a little bit more room. But it might be that if this is the only one you have, you might be able to take this one and put it in, just make it split, put this one with a couple more frames somewhere else, and supply this colony here with some empty space so that the queen will have room to lay. But then keep a close check on it. Now I have heard that you could just go out every few days and cut out the queen cells, cut out the queen cells, cut out the queen cells until swarming season is over. That is a lot of work. And also, you're likely going to miss a queen cell because there's always one hidden somewhere that you didn't see. So it's really hard to stop them just by cutting those queen cells out. But you can use that and make a split, put it somewhere else, and maybe by doing that, you're giving them enough space. Maybe by doing that, you'll stop them swarming.
So if you take that out and put it somewhere else, you don't put another frame in?
Yeah, you would, yeah.
You would?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, another frame that would have space for her to lay eggs on. It would be best to put drone combs, not just plain foundation, because she can't lay on plain foundation. So if you have to drone comb in another hive that's empty, and that's something you're not going to have right off the bat. That's something you might have next year, but not this year. But you're not going to be worried about swarming too much the first year you have it anyway.
If you're trying to watch for that when that happens, that's pretty rough on the brood box. If you're looking for that, you got to pull every cotton picking frame
And shake the bees off
of that brood. I mean, that's kind of traumatic for the bee.
Oh yeah, it's traumatic for the bee, and it's also very difficult to find.
And like you say, it's so easy to miss it if it's early on.
Oh, it is. It is, yeah. All right, there's the queen. I found her. See her? And like I say, it's fun to find the queen. So I'm not going to say, don't look for the queen. You don't need to find the queen. I'm going to say, you may not need to. Go ahead and do it anyway. Fun. All right, here is notice. Can you see eggs over here? There's a few of these that have eggs and they're hard to see. As you move this way, you see that the larvae gets a little larger and a little larger and a little larger. So this right here is about 9 days old. It's almost ready to be capped. And this is capped here. So you can see the progress here. 3 days as a egg, and then from 3 days, 6 more days, and up, they're up to this point right here, ready to be capped, and then they're under cap the remainder of the time. All right. Now, what about this? That's the queen doing a great job there, right? This is a problem. We're here. You've lost your queen. Some of the workers, probably more than one, have started laying eggs. And that this colony is doomed unless you do something immediately, and it may be doomed anyway. But this is a bad situation. The workers, their abdomen is not long enough to reach all the way down in the bottom. Sometimes the eggs will be stuck on the side, but there'll be a bunch of them in there. So that's a bad situation. This looks good. You've got pearly white. That's what you want to see, pearly white brood food. Now when the queen lays, she lays in a circular pattern like this. She begins in the middle and then circles around, and so you can sort of see the progress. You can sort of see the sequence as you look in there. That's a good brood pattern there. That's really good. This is a more typical. What you're looking at here is the brood. On outside of that is the bee bread, and then up here in the corners, that is the honey. And that's a good looking pattern there. There's nothing wrong with that. That looks good. And it may extend. This may be the top. This may be out of a top box in a 2-box room. So this pattern may extend down in the bottom box in a similar way. So it may be. What about this pattern? That is not good. When you see that, you got a problem. So you may not know what it is, but you got a problem. The queen is, either the queen is not doing her job, you need to replace the queen, or there's something else going on there. That's something to look into there. That is not what you want to see. What about here? We talked about queen cups a while ago. This is what the queen cups look like when they extend them on down. These are capped over, so that there's queen in each one of those. The first one out, we usually go kill the rest of them. And it looks like, to me, there's one out, so I don't know where she is, why she hasn't.
What did you hear her chirping one time?
Do what?
You can actually hear them, or piping, I don't know which one, some call it piping or piping.
Yeah.
You can hear them, even while they're still in the egg.
Yeah, the queen that comes out, she will pipe and get the others to respond, and she knows where they are, so she will kill them.
Tricks them and tells them where she is.
What's it sound like?
It's like beep, beep, beep.
All right, here we have some worker brood and some drone brood. That's what you have there. And that's the problem. That looks good. Worker brood, drone brood. And all right, what about here? What's going on here? This looks like a supersedure situation. This looks like probably the queen has played out or about to play out, and the workers have gotten her to lay some, or they have taken some young brood and made a queen from them. And whether she's still around or not, I don't know. But they will get rid of her if she's still around, but they're replacing her, is what that looks like there. Supersedure cells usually are up on the face of the not always, but on the face of the frame, where the swarm cells are more likely to be down toward the bottom. And here is some brood, and here is bee bread next to the brood, and that's where it usually is, because that is used to feed the brood. Now, what is this? What's this up here? All right, that's capped honey, that's capped brood. See the difference? All right. Now, Blount showed you something. I've got some pictures too. This is what happens when you don't replace all the frames. You see, that is stuck to the top of that. I was taking the inner cover out and said, man, this thing is heavy. What's wrong? And of course, I got it up high enough. I saw what was wrong. This thing was loaded down with brood and honey. And it just makes you sick to see all that work they've done. What can I do with it? It's really fragile. It's hard to do anything with, but this is what I did with it. And that's why you want to keep rubber bands in your box. That is a frame there with 4 wires running on it. If you can maneuver that over and get it laid down on the frame and then rubber band them in, they will eventually attach that. And I've got to go out this spring. I put that in last year. I've got to go out this spring and take that out. Hopefully everything's out of it now, and I can take that out. This is the way they will do if they're left on their own. They will just start hanging it down together. It's usually the best to replace the frames in the same order. For some reason, University of Florida says they like to put a little bit of stuff in the bottom first. I have never figured out why that is. I don't do that. I've tried it. I can't see the difference, so I don't do it. So here's the way.
That's how I do it.
You put a little in the bottom?
Light it, and then put it on top to keep pumping it, and it just lights it all up.
Oh, you put some down the lid. Okay. Well, I'm going to show you one way to do it. Except I'm usually a little bit higher up than I am right now. Now, one of the things, this way here is a pretty safe way to do it. You put this down inside. Now, what I've always done before is light this and then jam it in there. But here is a safer way to do it. Stick this down in there a little bit. And then use this long nozzle here to stick down in there and get it lit. And that way it's not in your hand.
Randy's bringing the big gun out.
That's what you need.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, the torch, I give up using this lighter like that. The pine straw works great. It's a nice smoke.
Yeah, really good.
You got to collect it when it's dry.
Aniana Fire Department's gonna be here in a second.
And then add a little more.
Yeah.
That's the quickest they ever responded. No offense if anybody's on it.
If you're in a hurry, you can kind of leave it loose and it's easier to burn. But if you're going to do it for a while, kind of keep it going really good and just keep packing it in. You can pack it down. If you get it good, coat up good, you can pack it in pretty good and maybe get enough to last you for an hour or two. I usually use my Hive tool to do that with. But you see, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good smoke right there. I'd like to get this stuff out of the way. I spent more time doing that than I should. I could use a warm smoke right now.
Sorry.
Somebody want to try it? Somebody else want to try
So
it?
if it gets too hot, then what do you do?
Let it cool off.
And you just press that, keep it going.
This bellows pumps air right in this hole right here, and that makes it, provides, that's the chimney effect, and that really.
And it'll sit there and smoke without having to be pumped for,
If you get it going good, it'll sit there and smoke for a long time. But if
Does
you
the
want to,
smokers come with that little hook, or is there something you added?
yes,
Yeah,
yes, that comes with it. And what I do now, I use a little box and set it on the back of my truck. I don't have one with me. And just set this inside the box and hook it on there, and that way that keeps it from falling over. If you just set this down on the back on your, sometimes this bottom gets hot. If you just set it on your liner bed in your truck, it'll melt little rings in that. So don't do that. And so hook it on something, or put it in a metal box or something like that. I'll get it going. Does anybody want to try this one? Does anybody want to stick it down in there and then light it? I guess we better get the stuff out.
Alright.
No, stick it in there. Stick it out.
Oh, we stick it in here first?
Yes, I'd stick it down in there and then stick it.
We messed up and light the woods on fire.
Just hold it right there.
Burn our eyebrows.
Yeah.
You almost did that one time.
Catch the suit on fire.
That way you won't burn your hand. Okay.
And then you just,
Poke it in. And
Yeah.
and you add more?
Yeah, add some more. Add
Yeah,
some
fire
more.
department's definitely coming over here now.
Poke it down.
They're just gonna think it's people vaping.
And that'll burn for 4 hours.
Really?
Huh.
Yeah, wouldn't you?
I think she. You know how many times I've done that smoke and then got it in my face and
Oh,
like,
I know. The wind always changes direction. You get it good and puffing almost where it just put flames up.
So I say Andy some smoke and he'll smoke me.
Actually, it's electric things. You can actually, instead of the hand pump, you can actually get little battery powered electric ones that do it now.
Can you use these pretty immediately?
Oh,
Light
yeah.
it and go straight to use?
Yeah, like you said, I light it, sit out there on the rock, on the gravel or something, then go put my suit on. Usually let it sit there and come back, puff it again, it'll still be ready to go.
Is that enough to close it?
Yeah.
Using a smoke machine?
Huh?
Anybody ever thought about using a smoke machine?
What will cause it to be too hot? Too much airflow or just too much
Yeah,
straw?
once you're gonna snuff it like that, it's gonna smoke. It's gonna sit there and there you go.
there you go.
That's a good smoke.
I've never really even worked with it if it feels too hot or not.
Well, the bees don't like it if it's hot. You want it to be cool.
Is that a problem with that?
Yeah,
hanging out?
that's what I say. That's what you just don't have it all in there. But cause it's not hot. You can stick your hand in there. It's not even burning. Down very good. I might have it. Because you're just going to go puff, 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 puff. And a lot of times, now, and a lot of them I do it too. is puff a few puffs in the entrance of the
Now,
hive.
you can puff too much if
Go
you're not
around the
careful.
front, puff a few times in the front, and then crack the lid and puff a few up in the lid and shut it for just a minute, let them calm, and you open it up and you kind of keep it handy. If they start to, that's when the bee starts bothering you, flying around, you trying to get to you even though it can't. You can just kind of puff smoke around. It'll kill it. It'll mess up its the pheromones, its attack pheromones.
And the bottom of that will get hot. I saw how you.
I already felt it.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah, be careful when you set it down, because
See, like
I
this,
set it down in my
like
truck
this,
bed and
it's
burnt the
still
truck bed
something
once.
smoking. Puff it again, let you get night white smoke.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll sit there and do. The pine straw works good. Shavings. We give away those little things, those little
Smoker.
things you talk about. Well, they're these things. They don't light good, but you can throw some of them in there after you get it lit, and it'll kind of keep it burning longer sometimes. But,
Now, how's he gonna get those out before he?
well, that's what I do. Stick. I'm gonna do what I do.
You gonna dump it in that jar?
Stick these. I got some stoppers. Stop it up. It's just gonna suffocate. It's no oxygen. It's gonna suffocate it. And then he's ready to start back up again.
All right.
Cool.
Well, thank y'all.
So that's it for the bee meeting today. There's Paul.
Yeah,
Paul, what do you
if
think
they-
about it?
You want to go too,
It's good stuff, man.
too
Good stuff.
deeps.
All right, we're
No
gonna
damage.
no damage. All right, we're gonna get off here. I'll see you on the next video.